Hello everyone, Lawrence here from Unicorn Reviews, and after 3 weeks of having this Silverstone LD-02 from the Lucid series just staring at me every time I walk into this office, I finally have an evening to do a review on it. And now suddenly everything seems to be going wrong. Let's start with the main things here. The LD-02 is a full tempered glass case. You have tempered glass front, left side and right side. It's micro ATX inverted, and that's basically where the first problem begins. You see, I'm an AMD Ryzen user. That right there is still a Ryzen 1700 rocking away in my case, and it's impossible to find a micro ATX X470 board. More about that later because that's actually pretty important. On top of this case, other than room for dual 140mm fans, there is I/O. So there's the usual headphone and microphone, along with dual USB 3.0 ports and a Type-C port. Now, what's really interesting is that the Type-C port has a separate connector. It's not the new Gen 2, so it actually fits on AMD motherboards, but try and find a micro ATX board with dual USB 3 headers. You won't be able to. Just like you can't find an X470 board, which again leads to more issues. The system that I usually run has a lot of hard drives in it because I kind of use it as a server as well. It's 2 VMs running side by side. Where there's room for triple hard drives, in this case along with a PC or with an M.2 motherboard SSD, which is what I usually use, again I can't really find a motherboard with the right amount of SATA ports at the right speeds. What gives? So, what's kind of happening here is that Silverstone went with a motherboard size with this case, so the micro ATX form factor, which makes an awful lot of sense on paper. You know, no one uses SLI anymore because that's dead. AMD, well, do they even, still make competitive graphics cards? I don't know. However, it doesn't work in real life. There's not enough slots on the board for USB 3 ports, SSDs, hard drives, all that sort of stuff. Next issue. There's room for, as I said, dual 140s in the top, along with dual 120s or even quad 120s if you go push-pull in the front. However, again, try and find a motherboard with enough fan headers. The same thing with some other stuff. I'll grab it really quickly right now. I should actually prepare these videos a lot better. But Silverstone sent me a box with a bunch of RGB stuff. So they sent me 5 RGB fans, 2 RGB strips. Now that means we have 7 RGB connectors. Now obviously no motherboard has 7 RGB connectors, and I don't expect a motherboard to have 7 RGB connectors. That would be silly. But you have to then start running an RGB splitter, which is not included with the case. There's no PWM fan splitter included with the case. And so you end up with this really tiny case with a motherboard with very limited connectivity, and there's no splitters like integrated into the system, so it starts adding a lot of bulk to the point where you can't really fit the side panel anymore because it's just too tight. I cannot fit Silverstone's very own fan and RGB splitter in this case. So that went wrong. Anyway, it doesn't stop there. Same goes for the power supply. So the LD-02 can fit an ATX power supply. Great on paper, small case, big power supply. Makes all the sense in the world. Until I grabbed a rather old, admittedly, Be Quiet Straight Power Pro, 680 watt unit, modular, and I had to absolutely ram it in there and just bend the cables beyond the comfortable point in order to get that power supply in. So again, it's just a bit too small. And all of these little things led to the point of me pretty much running the motherboard straight off of power right now, but I just put lights in the case because I can't get the whole thing to run properly because I can't fit all the stuff in there, which is quite a sad point in this review. Now don't get me wrong, there's a lot of positives to say about this case, but you really have to go in prepared. So if you want to buy this incredibly stunning case with chrome trim, tempered glass, everything, and actually decent airflow as well. I mean, your graphics card can get air right from the top because it's inverted, everything looks super beautiful. It's very well built and all that, but if you want to build in here, buy a small form factor power supply with an adapter. You'll have to buy your own fan screws because it doesn't come with those. Your power supply will probably come with power supply screws, but again, the case doesn't actually come with power supply screws for whatever reason. So you have to use motherboard standoff screws to put, yeah, whatever, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. However, I think if you can do it properly, so put a liquid cooler in the front here, MATX board, probably Intel so you can get a decent chipset, big ass graphics card, you even have a graphics card support, so that's awesome. But you can really make an epic build with this. But I'm not big enough of a review channel to ask everyone for free stuff, so I can just do one build. And so this is where it ends for me. It's pretty sad, but that's kind of what it is. So to really conclude my review, because like, let's be honest, this isn't a proper review. To really conclude that review of the LD-02, the case is stunning. It's incredibly well built and it actually has decent airflow. However, it's super tiny and you really have to think stuff through. You could probably put a fan splitter and an RGB splitter somewhere in the hard drive cages because you can't really use enough hard drives anyway with this one. I mean, my motherboard has 4 SATA headers, but it's just not enough for what I wanted to do. So all of that, keep it in mind, look at all the components you're going to use and then order and buy a system in here. But I'm just going to return this motherboard. I'll probably send all the other stuff back to Silverstone because I can't use it. Which kind of sucks because I love the way it looks. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Let me know in the comments, please let me know in the comments what you think about products like this. Beautiful but flawed product. And I'm not really saying it's Silverstone's fault. I mean, AMD promised we would get all the form factors in the world and they delivered on that with the first gen, but then second gen Zen or the X4 whatever didn't get the MATX treatment, so here we are. Go Intel.